Tonight on Joy News Prime, government abolishes road tolls across the country.
Government has abolished all tolls on public roads and bridges.
But prepare to pay 1.7% phone transaction levy payable through mobile money per transaction above 100 Ghana cedis.
Government has decided to place a levy on all electronic transactions to widen the tax net and rope in the informal sector.
The minority in parliament predicts bitter and painful Christmas, arguing the 2022 budget will impose hardships on Ghanaians.
The Bawumia-led economic management team has sought to impose more suffering and pain on the ordinary Ghanaian by punishing them with additional devastating taxes and other fiscal measures in the budget. This has aimed at raising additional tax of 15 billion Ghana cedis.
And coming up in business,
the Trade Ministry invites Good Health for emergency meeting on the benchmark value controversy ahead of the post-budget debate.
Already, I've been in lengthy talk just after the budget with the Deputy Minister of Trade responsible for our sector, trading. And she has indicated that she is going to meet with us ASAP to start this engagement.
Charles Aite will bring us details later, and much later here on Joy News Prime, the yellow fever death toll in the Savannah region increases from 8 to 14.
1,300 doses of the yellow fever vaccine to start with the vaccination in the affected community.
We have these and more coming up in the next few hours. Joy News Prime is coming to you live from our Fun of Us studios here at Kumlemle, Accra. We're live on DSTV, channel 421, Go TV, it's 144. I am Ernest Minu. Stay tuned. Hello again, many thanks for joining us. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, has announced that motorists who ply tolled roads across the country will no longer be required to pay tolls immediately after the budget is approved. This was contained in the 2022 budget presentation on the floor of Parliament. Mr. Ofori-Atta said although the toll system has played a crucial role in funding the expansion of Ghana's road infrastructure, it creates unpleasant situation at the toll points.
Our roads are being fixed. It is true that more roads have been fixed and are being fixed over the last 5 years than any relative period in the entire history of our nation. We even want to do a lot more, and this budget will cater for this. That is why for decades, governments after governments imposed and maintained tolls on some public roads to raise funds for road construction and maintenance. This is the situation in many countries. However, over the years, the tolling point and impacted negatively on productivity. The congestion generated at the tolling points, besides creating these inconveniences, also leads to pollution in and around the vicinities. To address these challenges, government has abolished all tolls on public roads and bridges. This takes effect immediately. The budget is approved on appropriation. The toll collection personnel will be reassigned. The expected impact on productivity and reduce environmental pollution will more than offset the revenue foregone by removing the tolls.
Government is also proposing a 1.7% phone transaction levy payable by mobile money users per transaction, which is above 100 Ghana cedis. He said this will help government to shore up revenue inflows to fund road projects in the country.
Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 contributed to the acceleration of the digitalization of Africa. Data from the Bank of Ghana confirms a growing trend in online trade. The data showed that between February 2020 and February 2021 alone, Ghana saw an increase of over 120% in the value of digital transactions compared to 44% for the period February 2019 to February 2020. Apart from the convenience online trading offers, the surge has happened globally was primarily due to the increase in the use of digital platforms as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. Total value of transactions for 2020 was estimated to be over 500 billion Ghana cedis compared to 78 billion cedis in 2016, just 5 years ago. While total money subscribers and active mobile money users have grown by an average rate of 18% and 16% respectively between 2016 and 2019. Mr. Speaker, it has become clear that there is this enormous potential to increase tax revenue by bringing into the tax bracket transactions that could be best defined as being undertaken in the informal economy. After considerable deliberation, government has decided to place a levy on all electronic transactions to widen the tax net and rope in the informal sector. This shall be known as the Electronic Transaction Levy or e-levy. Mr. Speaker, electronic transactions covering mobile money payments. Mr. Speaker, honourable members, order. Electronic mobile money payments, bank transfers, merchant payments, and e-mode remittances will be charged at an applicable rate of 1.75%, which shall be borne by the sender, except e-mode remittances, which will be borne by the recipient. Mr. Speaker, to safeguard efforts being made to enhance financial inclusion and protect the vulnerable, all transactions that add up to 100 Ghana cedis or less per day, which is approximately 3,000 Ghana cedis per month, will be exempt from this levy.
Now, some of you have been reacting to this on social media. Let's take you to Facebook now for some of your comments on this issue. Many of you talking about this development in Parliament following that presentation made by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. 1.7% on electronic transactions. Godwin Gako says, robbing Peter to pay Paul, with laughing emojis there. Sharif Ustaz says, Ghana has now turned to, Kelly William, I'm sure you want to write. Amos Jeff Gojo says, how can you pay more than what the service providers charge? It's totally because we have phones, but, unable to use that. Okay, Dadzi Alberta says, setting the rich man free and subjecting the poor man to suffer. Prince Godman says, this is madness. No job, no day. Boys, they use betting, they get small money. Even that one self, it goes on and on, clearly disagreeing with this. Michael Boy says, hey, God, please have mercy on us and save us from this wicked people. Jeff Tate says, the problem is not about paying the tax, but it's actually what they use it for. That's a problem. Kwabna Aegis says, it means I'll be in my room, but will be paying road tolls each time I transfer cash. Hey, 1.7 per too much. We'll be getting more education on that. Well, government has said it will use it for road infrastructure, but not exactly for road tolls. And ahead of the budget presentation, many communities agitated about the poor nature of their roads, calling on government to fix it. Here's what you can expect in regards to that in the 2022 budget?
We have found through this tax a reliable method of funding our roads. As at the end of September 2021, routine maintenance was carried out on 21,165 kilometers of the trunk road network, 6,265 kilometers of the feeder road network, and 2,937 kilometers of the urban road network. Mr. Speaker, development works progressed steadily on several major projects. The Pokwa interchange under the Accra Urban Transport Project, which involved the construction of a 4-tier interchange, the only one in Africa, construction of 12 kilometers of selected roads, segregated walkways, footbridges, underpasses, and drainage structures was completed and commissioned on July 9, 2021. Major pipeline projects that are expected to take off in 2022 include Accra-Kumasi dualization, Kumasi South and Western Bypass, Kumasi Outer Ring Road, Mamfikoforidia Road, Oyibi Dodua Somenya Kuse Junction Road, Accra Outer Ring Road, Asuchari Junction Volleyball Bridge, Eastern Corridor Road, Solar Wa Road, construction of 5 interchanges in the greater Kumasi metropolitan area, including Swame, Santase, Airport Runabout, and Ofori Krom. Mr. Speaker, in addition, our public-private partnership program for the financing, construction, and management of road infrastructure has 3 projects at different stages of preparation. Accra-Tema Motorway PPP projects, the financing arrangements are being completed and construction will commence in 2022.
Well, if you had roads in your community mentioned there, good for you. But let's go on to the phone lines now and speak to Ken Ashigbe. He is the CEO of the Telecoms Chamber. Let's get his reaction to the 1.7% e-levy that will be introduced next year if approved by Parliament. Thank you very much, Dr. Ashigbe, for joining us on Joy News Prime. Is this in the right direction or rather retrogressive as far as the digitization is concerned and, the agenda to have, a cashless society?
Thank you very much. If you look at the statement itself that was made, you find out that government itself was talking about being careful about financial inclusion and to protect the vulnerable and all of that. So there's, you can see that they themselves are conscious of the fact that this could impact the financial inclusion agenda that government is set on. So, but the interesting thing is that, and this is one of the things we said several times, there was no engagement before this was announced, so we are hearing it at the same time as everybody is doing. But fortunately, we have up to the 1st of January to be able to engage, because there are several conversations that have to be had in all of this.
You sound very disappointed.
Well, that's what I'm saying, that we need to really discuss this into details to be able to understand it, because we have, our position all the time had been that you don't want to tax the cash that is involved in mobile money. So that we want to be clear that when I go to make a payment and I have the option to either pay the merchant by cash or by mobile money or any digital means, would that mean that it will be discriminated against the digital means that would have been more transparent and more efficient as opposed to cash? So there are several conversations that we need to hold with the government, because definitely, whether we like it or not, at the nascent stage that you have, especially the merchant payments in, taxing it at this particular time might, have a detrimental impact on us. We should bear in mind the learnings from places like Uganda and how it's been done. But I am also comforted that the government said they would engage industry players in discussing the way it's going to be implemented, so that we can look at, being able to ensure that in all of this, we do not sacrifice government's own digitalization agenda that it's pushing, so that there will be some congruence in terms of policy direction. So I would say that we would wait for the engagement with the Ministry of Finance and GRA in terms of how, and even the Bank of Ghana, in terms of how this will be implemented, so that the financial inclusion agenda that government itself says it does not want to impact on, it's safeguarded.
There's a drive to raise revenue domestically, and we are in this a post-pandemic economic recovery program that government is rolling out. Would it be okay, seeing that the mobile money space has grown substantially? It is a place government would want to go. It's an easy target. Would it be okay for you if government had placed the tax on the profit, for instance?
If government had done what?
Had placed a tax on profits and not necessarily on transactions.
Well, you see, the thing about it is that we definitely need to fund our budgets. And, as you can see, the portion of our budget that is used in paying interest is so high. And definitely the gearing ratio for government itself is so tight, it's so high. And we cannot continue in that particular direction. So we need to be looking at very innovative ways in which we can expand, the tax net. But we need to do it in such a way that we do not, actually harm ourselves. The net effect is positive. And if you look at the statement, there's a lot more conversations that have to be had.
Well, unfortunately, we lost there Dr. Ken Ashidbe, CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications, but I think the point is well made. Quite disappointed that they weren't engaged extensively before the announcement, but I think they have a window to engage government, the BOG, the relevant stakeholders, to ensure that this is done rightly. They're raising concerns about how it will affect financial inclusion and also encourage the cashless system and digitalization that is being promoted by government. But closely related to the issue of roads is the issue of transport fares and taxes on fuel. The transport unions were expecting government to announce the removal of at least 5 taxes from fuel, but that did not happen. David Boado is the PRO of the Concerned Drivers Association. He joins us on the phone. Mr. Boado, yesterday you were specific on your expectation. I guess you're disappointed now.
We are disappointed in this current government or current administration. We are very, very disappointed in them.
And so what the condition you placed on the suspension of your demonstration was the removal of these taxes, and you were hopeful that today the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, would make an announcement in that direction. That did not happen. What can we expect from you? What is your next action?
Thank you very much. Today, the IGP meets with the transport organization, and we promised ourselves meeting on Friday. So for now, we will not say anything, but after Friday, we will communicate to the media what and the steps we should take.
And so how are your members reacting to this already? Can you tell us? I mean, there's a coalition. How are they already reacting to this development?
My phone was busy throughout the reading of the budget. All the regional executives are calling me, sending messages. And it's like me is the person that reads the budget. The threatening words and other things that come to me. And I would say all drivers are disappointed. All drivers. I will not say one. All of us, we are all disappointed. So for now, we'll hold our breath till Friday when we meet as coalition. We'll come out. But as to him saying all toll booths will be scrapped off and we will pay through DVLA and other things, I will ask this question. That the foreign transport organizations that comes to Ghana, that doesn't pay tolls, that doesn't pay their DVLA in Ghana, where are we going to take money from them? Because they are using our roads. Where is the money going to come from?
And that's
So
a very
for that
important question. Going forward, as we look at the appropriation and the deliberations that will be going on in Parliament, we'll put that question to the authorities. Mr. Babu, I'm grateful that you could join us. That's the PRO of the Concerned Drivers Association. Now, unemployment was also topical, especially in the wake of the thousands of young people who thronged various screening centers by the security agencies. Well, government says it has a plan to create 1 million jobs using 1 billion Ghana cedis.
Speaker, this budget is redefining our development paradigm by focusing on the private sector, particularly on entrepreneurship development. We will build an entrepreneurial nation by aggressively implementing programs that empowers the majority of our young people to employ their God-given talents to take risks and become job creators instead of job seekers. In the pursuit of this objective, we will address the challenges our existing and aspiring entrepreneurs face. These challenges include access to credit and finance, regulatory and tax burdens, lack of skills, as well as mentorship. We will do this whilst intensifying our efforts to support the private sector to expand and create jobs. Mr. Speaker, this understanding of the youth employment challenge, as well as extensive consultations of stakeholders, including youth associations and educational institutions across the country, have led to the development of what we call the Youth Start Initiative. Youth Start Initiative, which proposes to use 1 billion Ghana cedis each year. Proposes to use 1 billion Ghana cedis each year to catalyze an ecosystem to create 1 million jobs, and in partnership with the financial institutions and development partners, raise another 2 billion Ghana cedis over the 3-year period. In addition, Mr. Speaker, our local banks have agreed to a package that will result in increasing their SME portfolio up to 5 billion Ghana cedis over the next 3 years. This, Mr. Speaker, results in an unprecedented, historic 10 billion cedi commitment in the next 3 years to the private sector and the Youth Start program over the next 3 years.
Let's speak to economist Professor Festus Texan. He's with the University of Ghana Economics Department. Prof. Texan, thank you very much for your time here on Joy News Prime. Let's start on that very last point of unemployment. Government wants to create 1 million jobs using 1 billion cedis at least. How feasible or realistic is this?
I think the government, thank you. Good evening to your viewers. I think that the minister clearly spelled out how the Youth Start was going to be fashioned out in terms of skills development training, in terms of startup capital and the mentoring. I mean, it's something that we have felt as a nation to do over a long period of time, and it's important and refreshing to hear government roll this out. Yes, it's feasible. These days, the young men and women who are being churned out of our university are very, very smart with the use of technology. And for those of us who have been in direct contact or have had something to do with training of the youth, you find out that they have a lot of ideas, but at times what they lack has been the capital and then the mentorship that will help them to make their big plans and their ideas come to fruition. So it's important that government is now looking at using that intervention to try to create 1 million jobs. I think 1 million will be a little bit overambitious, but with about 1 billion cedis every year being devoted to that, I think that even if you're able to create 100 to 200,000 jobs, that should be something that will be very recommendable. I have my doubts if that could create 1 million jobs. It will take a lot of training. I mean, talking about 1 million young men and women, it will be very, very ambitious. If you say over the next 5 years is going to be 1 million, yes, but 1 million jobs, 1 billion every year, I think that would be ambitious.
Closely related to that is the tax regime, and many businesses have complained about, the high taxes they have to pay, despite what we know government has announced in terms of rebate to some of the industries. What do you make of the tax regime announced by the finance minister in today's presentation?
I was not surprised, really. We need to come to a realization that given the challenges that we have, there are only two alternatives. Either we go on to borrow, which is now becoming extremely difficult, or we have to fund our own development.
Okay.
And funding our own development means that we need to rake in more domestic revenue. And to get our domestic revenue, either we tax more, we widen the tax and become more efficient in collecting taxes so that we fund our own development instead of relying on external parties to help us. There's no doubt that it will take a while for us to go beyond aid or beyond support. But in the interim, we need to collect as much revenue as possible. I was happy about the property rates that he mentioned that the district assemblies were going to. That in itself should be able to sort the district assemblies out so that government's statutory payments to the district assembly common fund will decline. Because if you look, statutory payments and interest and compensation alone is taking over 100% of our tax revenue. And a country that doesn't have fiscal space is not a country that will be able to expand its productive capacity. Where are we going to get money for capital expenditure? So it's important that we are able to collect enough revenue.
And that brings
me...
So
there was some initiative that I mentioned. The only tax handle that I was a bit disappointed in was the e-levy.
And I was just going to come to that. Why are you disappointed?
Momo transaction, yes. Momo transactions, what do you call it? Merchant payments and then also bank transfers. I am not privy to what sort of formula is going to be used to do that, but I would expect that even if that policy is going to be pursued, which I find very disappointing, it doesn't become counterproductive to attempts that we are making to have a cashless society, attempts that we are being made at the moment. What the Vice President told us was the central bank coming to develop an ECD to facilitate transactions.
Yes.
Once levies begin to be imposed on these things and the transaction costs become higher, people refuse to make use of them. But the enormous benefits that we hope to gain if we have a cashless society or we have an e-currency to transact business will be much more higher than whatever revenue the government is hoping to make. So until I get information about how that is going to be done, if it does affect financial inclusion, I'll be very, very surprised that this government want to do something of that sort. Remember, in the past, we imposed what we call financial services tax.
Yes.
That was counterproductive, and some of us complained it was redone. This is not a time for us to go back to those nuisance taxes. So unless I get the information on how that is going to be done, I can understand that a great amount of transactions that are taking place online that go untaxed.
Yeah.
We should try and focus on that. But Momo transactions, bank transfers should not attract any levy. We want a cashless society. We want to encourage Ghanaians to make less use of cash and use online payments and so on and so forth. So this is not a time for us to impose levies that will serve us as a disincentive for people to involve in those transactions.
Very well.
So that was a little bit that I was surprised about.
Very well. Professor Texton, we have to end it here because of time, but I'm grateful that you could join us. The conversation has just started on this, and I'm sure we'll have some more time to look into the details. That's Professor Festus Texton. He's a senior lecturer and economist at the University of Ghana. Christmas will be bitter and painful for Ghanaians. That's according to the Minority Caucus in Parliament, which argues the 2022 budget will impose more hardships on the ordinary Ghanaian. In the view of the NDC, the government failed to spell out concrete plans to reduce the public debt. They projected Ghana's debt would reach about 355 billion cedis by end of this year. Ranking member on the Finance Committee, Kezela Tuforson, observed that the minority will reject the special tax on mobile money as well as the 15% increase on all government fees and charges.
Bawumia-led economic management team has sought to impose more suffering and pain on the ordinary Ghanaian by punishing them with additional devastating taxes and other fiscal measures in the budget. This has aimed at raising additional tax of 15 billion Ghana cedis. In fact, it will surprise you to note that from the evidence presented to us in the budget statement, this government is increasing tax revenue by 25 billion Ghana cedis in one single year. Among others, this government has done a catastrophic reversal of the populist benchmark values discount despite loud protestations from the sector players, importers and other Ghanaian public. The reversal of the benchmark values discount will immediately result in 25 to 30% increase in the prices of essential imported commodities, which will make life almost impossible to live for millions of Ghanaian households. This Christmas, ladies and gentlemen, will go down as the most bitter and painful for Ghanaians as they will struggle to put food on the table for their families due to draconian fiscal and tax policies that has been introduced by the Akufo-Addo-Bawumia government.
So we'll bring you more reactions from the minority on today's budget presentation, but we summarized the 2022 budget for you, brought you 10 things that we think you should know in this 2022 budget, put together by the Joy Research Desk. They pulled it from the presentation today. So total revenue, 105 billion, and the total expenditure, 137.5 billion. So clearly you see there's a deficit in this projection that has been made today by the Finance Minister. Budget amount versus the projected outturn. So this for 2021. And so the projection, the budget amount was 72.5 billion. We did, so far as at September 2021, we've done 70.3 billion Ghana cedis. And then when it comes to the expenditure, the projection was 113.8 billion. We've done so far 111.6 billion. This as of September 2021. Now, the public debt stock, again, as of September 2021, is 341.76 billion cedis, and this is 77.5% of our GDP, if you are looking at it as a percentage of our GDP. The economists will tell you that it should always be below 70%, 60, 65. If you cross 70, then you know you are in danger. And this perhaps informed, Fitch's downgrading of our credit ratings from stable to negative. And you had the minorities project that this may actually increase. Now, this is very interesting. In terms of the revenue we generate so far, domestic revenue, this statistics from the Ghana Statistical Service says that the Greater Accra region does 88.83, almost 90% of all the revenue that we raise domestically. 88.3% from the Greater Accra region. The rest of it, even when you put this together, doesn't give you 5%. And so that is in terms of the breakdown of the revenue we are generating. And this was made known in today's budget. The e-levy, we've talked about it. The usage is for entrepreneurship, youth employment, cybersecurity, digital and road infrastructure, public transport as well. And this is how it's going to apply on your mobile transaction and other government, transactions as well. And then the road toll, many of you have been reacting. We'll go to Kumasi shortly. The drivers there have also been reacting to this. The essence of this to reduce congestion, travel time, reduce environmental pollution, and also increase productivity. And the 1 billion jobs, we talked about this to create 1 million jobs. This is how government intends to disburse the monies that it would raise locally with the banks. And also, there was an account of the Obatampa program, how government has expended the money so far. 150 graduates receiving some skill training, and a huge part of that going to the development bank as well. And then this is the 2021 indicators. GDP rate 3.5, 11% for inflation and in October, interest rate 12.46, and then gross international reserves 4.9 months covering import. And so that's it. That's what you should know for today's budget presentation. Coming up shortly in business, the Trade Ministry is inviting GUTA for an emergency meeting on the benchmark value controversy ahead of the post-budget debate, which will come up shortly.
Already, I've been in lengthy talk just after the budget with the Deputy Minister of Trade responsible for our sector, trading. And she has indicated that she is going to meet with us ASAP to start this engagement.
Light is on standby to bring you details. And in sports, South Africa accuses Ghana of match fixing. We have details shortly.
Is it that there's a betting spike just before a major decision is taken, and therefore people bet? So they knew when to bet.
You're welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aite. The Trade Ministry is expected to hold a crucial meeting with leadership of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, over the 50 and 30% benchmark values, which government has just reversed in the budget. Confirming this to Joy Business, the president of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obin, explains that this meeting will be factored into discussions ahead of the post-budget debate in Parliament.
Already, I've been in lengthy talk just after the budget with the Deputy Minister of Trade responsible for our sector, trading. And she has indicated that she is going to meet with us ASAP to start this engagement. And so we are not joking. We wouldn't just sit down for anything to be imposed on us, never. So we'll talk through, and we also understand issues. We know how the manufacturing industry also require. We know what government also need, even in terms of revenue. But it shouldn't be said that they are doing all this against one sector, that they do not care. They should also care for us, because we are all a major stakeholder and we are in distress period, that they should understand our plight. Care should be taken that when we reverse the benchmark value, duty is going to go up. Already the final consumer is overburdened. They are not buying. The turnover is not there. So if we increase again, the pot might be empty in the coming year. And then you have targeted that because you've increased the tax, you are going to have your worth, and you will not even get your target, meet it. And so we have to put everything on the scale, weigh them, and see how it will balance up for all of us. And that we should also think about not doing anything for us to also feel that we are not even part of the schemes of affair in this country, the common trader. It's very pathetic.
And we'll see how the meeting goes to give you updates as and when we do have them. But still on the budget, lead tax partner at Deloitte Ghana, George Ankuma, is cautioning government against a possible double taxing as it reveals plans to introduce innovative ways of raising revenue. Known as e-levy, government in the 2022 budget intends to slap some 1.7% tax on transactions covering mobile money payments, bank transfers, merchant payments, and inward remittances. But speaking on Business Live, Ms. Ankuma urged government to come clear with what constitutes the tax base for the new levies.
It's important for us to get some more clarity, probably by the time the implementation starts, as to whether this levy is actually going to be on the value of transaction or is going to be on the value of the service fee or service charge on e-services, because it was clear from the budget statement that it will be on bank transfers, it will be on mobile money and what have you. So it means that we have to now ask the question, is it on the value of the transaction, actual value of the transaction, or we are talking of the service that I received that I'm to pay tax on? Because if it's on the value, then a bit more questions need to be answered now. Because if my salaries are paid through the bank and I transfer part of my salary, it means my salary is going to now be taxed again because I've transferred to some other persons for whatever purpose. So I believe that a bit more clarity in terms of what constitutes the tax base for the levy to be charged on.
Well, of course, that we shall be, having more analysis on the budget in our subsequent bulletins. But of course, we anticipated that the budget will be heavy on job creation as well as entrepreneurship. To address the unemployment challenge, the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, announced that you start to supporting young entrepreneurs to launch and operate their own businesses. Take a listen to him.
We will address the challenges our existing and aspiring entrepreneurs face. These challenges include access to credit and finance, regulatory and tax burdens, lack of skills, as well as mentorship. We will do this whilst intensifying our efforts to support the private sector to expand and create jobs. Mr. Speaker, this understanding of the youth employment challenge, as well as extensive consultations with stakeholders, including youth associations and educational institutions across the country, have led to the development of what we call the Youth Start Initiative. Youth Start Initiative, which proposes to use 1 billion Ghana cedis each year. Proposes to use 1 billion Ghana cedis each year to catalyze an ecosystem to create 1 million jobs, and in partnership with the financial institutions and development partners, raise another 2 billion Ghana cedis over the 3-year period. In addition, Mr. Speaker, our local banks have agreed to a package that will result in increasing their SME portfolio up to 5 billion Ghana cedis over the next 3 years. This, Mr. Speaker, results in an unprecedented, historic 10 billion cedi commitment in the next 3 years to the private sector and the Youth Start program over the next 3 years.
For business, we have sports coming up. Do stay.
And of course, it's time for sports. And well, the South African Football Association has accused Ghana of match fixing after they suffered a 1-0 defeat to Ghana in the 2022 World Cup qualifier on November 14. That match was at the Cape Coast Stadium. Joy Sports' Oreku Ampofu joins me in the studio. Oreku, they filed a protest right after the match, we are told. Today they've been speaking at a news conference, giving details of what went into the protest.
Yeah, and that's been the case exactly. After the match, they did file their protest to FIFA. They didn't hide that. They said it right after the game. And today's press conference was just to brief everyone on what exactly went on in terms of the protest. And we can just take a look at the summary of the South African Football Association's petition to FIFA. Now, Donny Jordan, who's the president, says that there's a huge suspicion the match was fixed and claims he can prove betting spikes before major refereeing decisions were made. And then Rushin Deruk, who's the defender who actually held Daniel Amate, he says that he also alleges that decisions were already decided before the game, claiming that the referee promised to book him before the game started.
Really?
Yeah, so it's very shocking. And
wow.
It's all hearsay at this point. But Bafana coach Hugo Bruce says that he told his assistant that South Africa would lose the game after 15 minutes based on the decisions that he saw. And then former referee Ace Nkobo says he did his own independent analysis and 90.9% of decisions went against Bafana. He says that his analysis proves the bulk of decisions were poor in the first half.
Okay.
And SAFA have filed an official complaint but are yet to receive a response. So this was actually earlier in the day, but the response has just come a few minutes before we just walked into the studio with FIFA. And we'll go through that before we wrap up.
So that's what went into their complaint today.
Yeah.
Does Ghana have the opportunity to either challenge their claims? Before we even move to that, did they provide evidence, to back these claims they're making?
Well, FIFA responded to their protest, stating that yes, they did submit on the 15th, the day after the match, and they said that South Africa have attached 3 files. Now that includes payment receipts of their 1,000 Swiss franc, that's the protest fee, and then they've also attached the match commissioner's report, where the match commissioner admitted that South Africa said that they were taking this case to FIFA and CAF. And the third is South Africa establishing their case, basing it on match fixing, match manipulation, corruption, and then bribery. And so that was what FIFA said South Africa based their case on. Now FIFA have now said that they've put aside the disciplinary committee for this case, and they would start taking decisions on 23rd of November. However, that's where they will receive all information from South Africa and Ghana. And FIFA then went on to encourage Ghana that if Ghana has any information that they think would help with this protest, to defend their stance, they can also submit it before the 20th. So
it's not mandatory, but you have the opportunity to make an input if you think...
Yeah, if they do have any information that they think would help with investigations, they should do so before 20th. The sitting will start from the 23rd of November.
But so far, we heard from the FA, from the president, the spokesperson, on these allegations being made by the South Africans?
Well, the morning after the game, the spokesperson spoke to Joy Sports exclusively, and he said that he thought Ghana played fairly, and he understands the South Africans feeling hard done by the decision. But Ghana themselves have had very difficult decisions, and refereeing decisions do happen, but they've not influenced it in any way. He understands that they are coming from a point of view where they can protest, and maybe that's the right thing to do. But from his personal point of view, that's Henry Asante-Chim, he doesn't think that this would go anywhere. So they were confident as a Monday. We cannot gauge their mood now because that's the only interview that they've granted since the match.
Okay. And one thing that I find a bit, well, ridiculous for want of a better expression is the claim that even for betting, for these betting schemes we have, many of them predicted that Ghana was going to win by a penalty. And they've been speaking to that at the press conference as well.
Well, they did show some form of evidence in the press conference showing that there was a spike, people choosing the first half penalty right before the refereeing decision. And so I think they mentioned that they got that information from Bet365 in the UK. So it's all alleged at this point because you cannot really confirm where the information is coming from and who was the market of that betting, provider.
Exactly.
And whether it was really Ghanaians or are Ghanaians involved with this, or was it just but what we can establish is that in the protest submitted to FIFA, South Africa are not necessarily blaming Ghana. They are saying that they think the referee was manipulated. They've not mentioned whether it was by Ghana or not. But you can logically infer that if someone would manipulate the result and manipulate the referee, it would have to be Ghanaians. But then, they never said that exclusively.
Well, thank you, Oreku. Let's see how this goes. On Joy News, we have more stories for you. We'll be back with more business and more sports after this break. Please stay with us. And we'll bring you more reactions from the 2022 budget presentation. And MP for Bolgatanga Central, Isaac Adongo, is blaming the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, for imposing extra taxes. Listen to him.
Bawumia get excited about something. I told you that there was not a free lunch when he was talking about digitization. I knew that this digitization was going to end up in Bawumia pickpocketing. Today, as you are here working, immediately your money gets into the bank. Unless you go to the bank to withdraw the money in cash, any attempt to spend that money through any electronic means, whether you are transferring directly to somebody, you are transferring to your Momo wallet, you are paying out to your grandmother in the village, Bawumia is waiting to take his share before you spend that money. And yet you have paid taxes on that income. So you are paying double taxes because your income is taxed. The money that they now give to you as your net salary is also taxed if you spend the money by any electronic means. So what it definitely means is that we have reversed the electronic platform that we are creating by over 25 years. I will always go to the bank and so I don't pay. It is the same way you are likely not to be using your platforms to spend your money, but will be queuing at the bank because you want to avoid double taxation of the same money that you pay.
Meanwhile, the General Secretary of the opposition NDC, I beg your pardon, Johnson Esiudin Ketia, has alleged that government, in spite of the difficult times, plans on the construction of a new chamber. He also argued that the introduction of the Momo tax is regressive.
As I listened to, the minister, it was like he was living in past glories. He kept on talking about successes they achieved in 2017, 2018, and so on. I thought that this budget was about reviewing your performance in 2020. And then based upon that, you give us projections for 2021. So for you to be talking about 2017 and all that, he wasn't communicating. It gave me the impression that, look, this is a minister who is trying to do everything to cover up for uncomfortable stories. And I was amused because he kept talking about some of the achievements he mentioned, for instance, was NABCO creating jobs for 100,000 people. When you yourself have announced that the NABCO people are all going to be laid off. And so if you thought you created a job, you have been exposed.
But there's a new communication that the Shimena post about 3 days ago. That GRA issued a new communication.
So why are they now projecting that new people will be replacing them and those new people have been categorized as new employment that they will be creating? And then you look at, having read through the document, yes, I'm just giving knee-jerk reactions. One thing I also picked from this budget is that we don't know whether they are talking about austerity budget or they are talking about a budget that is supposed to inject more expenditure. Because on the one hand, they are saying that, oh, it's austerity. We have to tighten our belts and so on. And we don't see any belt tightening on the cost of running this country. Because the issue is excess expenditure over revenues. You see? So you are prepared to tackle new revenue measures that will rake in money that will be more than 44% of what you were able to raise this year. So it means that if you are going to tax the overburdened people anyway,
how about the road tolls?
And then, listen to me, and then you are not telling us how you are going to tighten your own belt. Because the biggest problem we have is overheads in this country. The cost of administering the country has increased so tremendously under this government.
Meanwhile, the majority says the budget is a major boost for the private sector.
Contractors should be paid regularly so that they can go back to site, so that more roads can be constructed and maintained. That too, the major boost for private sector, which is the Youth Entrepreneurship Support Program. Now, government is introducing a program where our youth at the various districts, small scale, can have up to 10,000. And if they are graduates who have their startups and want expansion, they can have up to 50,000. And where they are a medium scale, they have between 100 and 500,000. The good news is that government is guiding this investment into the private sector by channeling this through the private financial institutions. So it's not going to be goodies from government, but companies that have properly registered and have gone through training, these individuals will be encouraged to register with the banks, and through that, the banks will take them through the process of giving them that financial support. This will be a concessionary facility, and I believe that it will bring a lot of relief. So like my colleagues are saying, Obia Sabeka Nede, Obia Benye Biedi, Obia Benya Humfaswo. every Ghanaian will have an equal opportunity to get support, so that those at that level of informal sector, those who are chasing for formal sector jobs, can unearth their potential and make sure that the little that they can explore, there is that support to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by saying that government has demonstrated competence in its ability to manage the situation at hand. In the midst of this COVID, government has not given up. Our friends in opposition were expecting a doomsday budget, but this budget has given us hope. At the reliefs to the private sector, it's even beyond their own imagination. And the budget is calling on all Ghanaians to rally around and support government initiative. We need to get out of this. We will get out of this, but it is only through competence that we can get out of this. Indeed, our friends in the NDC cannot provide any alternative. They have not done so since this part government assumed office, and they can never do so even today.
And some commercial operators in Kumasi are unhappy with the government's failure to cushion them against the rising prices of petroleum products. They described the scrapping of road tolls announced by the finance minister today as irrelevant to the majority of taxi and trotros transport operators. Love FM's Emmanuel Bright Kweku engaged with some of the drivers, and here's what they had to say.
So government today, during the budget reading, indicated that they've abolished road tolls. And then we engaged with some drivers here at Tech Junction in Kumasi, and here's what they've been saying.
Abolishing the road toll hasn't gotten anything to do with the benefits of the drivers. The reason is that, looking at the whole issue, for instance, imagine the number of cars we are having in our station right now. The whole of the day, you will not get about 5 cars that will go across these toll booths. You only imagine, assuming that we have about 100 cars, you only get about 3 cars going beyond the toll booths. But most of the cars around here are likely to buy fuel. For the whole day, everyone will buy. So if you want to abolish anything, that should be the fuel.
If you say you have removed the road toll from us, how much is the road toll? Road toll is 50 pesos, 1 cedi. Just take that money and put it into the fuel and reduce it for us, so that just leave the road toll there. We are going to pay our road toll. Just leave the road toll there and let us pay and reduce the petrol for us.
Nanado, yeah, they catch it all. I don't have any bro. So we need my catch and road toll. Mimi okumase ase minka ada mi ko sunya makocha roto mi okumase minka ada mi ko konongo no makocha roto mi okumase Tech Junction mi ko adu roto me re kocha roto tripeto no so na nya adwuma ase roto onti so aye ka kire ameme nanado ameme sa na ba na so internal revenue beti so maye so beku ye say any nyisu ba okura peto no tiso maye no mentwa ya tax na twa no mentwa ya de sa ne na mekuru wa ne so me bre ama ba nie ese be ba em na nche ne da ne kokra fo hwe mo we kokra fo ko na gu a to to cinema so mani won to ye.
They say the road tolls are of no significance to them, and rather government should reduce prices on fuels. From Kumasi for Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
Well, away from the budget, the General Legal Council has granted automatic admission to the 499 students who were denied a place at the Ghana School of Law. That's according to lawyer for the aggrieved student Martin Pebu, who was part of the leadership of the group that met the Attorney General Godfrey Dibo-Adame and some members of the General Legal Council today. The AG, in a letter some days ago, urged the GLC to use 3 ways to admit the students who they say were not given admission although they passed. Martin Pebu says the main issue of disagreement now is the commencement date for the students.
Admit the 499 students, subject to some modalities as to when these students will commence the course. You said so. We're called and given the information. We've made our input. And so the subcommittee of the GLC that we met this evening will go back and report on the contents of this deliberation we've had. So we'll get the final decision subsequently. But at least what is heartwarming for the moment is that the GLC has decided to admit the 499, but the commencement date is what will be worked upon. So at this juncture, we wish to express our profoundest gratitude to all the stakeholders who put in a word or two for us, not least amongst them His Excellency the President, the Honorable Attorney General, the whole of Parliament, okay, several CSOs and individuals, and so on and so forth. I'm sure I've forgotten some. So we are extremely. And the GLC itself, of course, you know, the decision is coming from the GLC. So, I mean, we would have to express our gratitude to them too. We are very grateful that it appears for the first time in our history, the GLC, having admitted a certain number of students, has subsequently agreed to admit a second cohort, I mean, from one set of exams. So we are very grateful. So for the dates, as we said, we would wish to, I mean, keep that confidential for now. Let's give the GLC the option. I mean, it's not just the option. Let them exercise that prerogative to decide which one we will commence the course. A mixture of a number of the options. So there's going to be an admission, but we are pushing to see, or let's say still begging on bended knees, begging the GLC to see if we can have the commencement date earlier than the next academic year. We've made some proposals. Let the three-man committee take the proposals back to the GLC. We will not stampede the GLC for now. So right now we have made an input. We've been engaged, okay? We've made an input. So the three-man committee, okay, will take the information back, our proposals, our input back to the GLC. Then the GLC will look at it and come to a final decision about the commencement date.
Let's do some stories on health now. The yellow fever death toll in the Savannah region has increased from 8 to 14. The majority of the victims are children from settler farming communities in 2 districts of the region. Savannah regional correspondent Isaac Nonya has more in this report.
Currently, 2 districts in the Savannah region are battling the outbreak of yellow fever, which started October 15, infecting 8 people. In all, 65 cases have been recorded, with 14 deaths at the West Gonja Hospital. And the Savannah Regional Director of Ghana Health Service, Dr. Chrysanthus Kumbio, said the gesture was of a national response from the Office of the Director General of Ghana Health Service in equipping the region to conduct in-depth surveillance and monitoring in order to properly understand the disease and its treatment.
The Ministry of Defense brought in the vaccines this morning, and then we received 50,300 doses of the yellow fever vaccine to start with the vaccination in the affected communities. Aside that, we have also received some logistics to support in the case management of these cases that are on the ward at the West Gonja Hospital. We have received some PPEs, coveralls, nose masks, just to mention a few, and we have also received some oxygen concentrators to support the oxygen supply that the hospital currently has, and some IV infusions to be able to support in this regard. We have also received 2 pickup vehicles as part of the response from the Office of the Director General to assist us to carry out this response.
Dr. Kumbio also commended the continued presence of the World Health Organization and the Noguchi Institute, among others, who have joined hands with the laboratory on the ground since the outbreak of the disease. Also, 1,260 infusion-giving sets, including 11 oxygen concentrators and 1 oxygen cylinder, were among some of the logistics received by the Directorate.
Let's also use this opportunity to thank WHO, who have been on the ground to support in this outbreak investigation, as well as the headquarters support, the surveillance unit, EPI also here, and we also have a team from Noguchi Memorial Institute who are supporting to carry out entomological studies to see how the vector that transmits the virus is is as in relation to the communities where we are having these reported around to carry out the investigations. So we have been in a number of teams, a team that has to do with a surveillance. They are going into the communities and checking to see whether there are other cases that haven't come to the facility. And the National Reference Lab was also part of a laboratory team. When they suspect a case, they take the samples so that we do further investigations to confirm or otherwise of the disease. There's also the vaccination team that is going around with these teams, checking on the yellow fever vaccination status of the affected communities.
Asimoyan for joining us.
4 mechanics have been arrested by the Environmental Health and Sanitation Department officers of the AMA for flouting various sections of the bylaws, including the obstruction of flow of people and vehicles, working under unsanitary conditions and improper disposal of waste. After several warnings, the officials locked up a dilapidated spraying oven, which they say compromises the quality of air. Michael Papania-Shale was with the Joy Clean team and has the rest of the story.
In the Mamprobi area, health officials have closed down a makeshift mechanic shop. The authorities say the pollutants from the shops is hazardous to the residents and is polluting the environment. After several warnings, this time, no amount of plea will save the shop.
This is where they spray the cars, and this is a residential house. You understand? So fumes, dust, and impurities from here. It's like the whole air here is polluted. The people in this vicinity, they can't breathe good air. So imagine the chemicals from this spraying car. That's to the people continuously. And look at the structure. You can see the structure. The structure is not protected so that the fume and the gas and whatever should remain here.
I mean, they said they've warned you before. How come you've not worked on it?
We bought the materials that we are coming to change it, renovate the place. But at the moment they are doing some spraying, so when they finish, then we do the renovation. And the carpenter said maybe by this weekend you will come and do it.
But
we are going to. When spraying, it doesn't go.
Look at the opening. Look at the opening. You are spraying.
Even not spraying, and we can hear.
And you can hear the scent. The impurities, the gas, the fumes.
Malik, I think what we can do now is that you polluted the people for so long, and today we are not going to leave you. Arrest him. We will take him to court today. We will arrest you and take you to court because it's like the leniency we have on you. You are abusing it. This is unacceptable.
No, we are not going to
our satisfaction. Okay. If this place,
so let's move this car out.
Then we come and then inspect it and see whether the place is conducive for your business. If the place is conducive for your business, we will open it for you to operate. But from today, right now, you are not going to operate again. You won't spray any single car here again.
So move this car out, then we move this car.
Please.
So the AMA will be closing down this makeshift oven. They say that they've given them warnings upon warnings, but that has not yielded to any tangible changes with this particular. You can see the structure from the roofing, the corrugated roofing that is now rusting. So yes, so you are seeing that activity in the background. They are closing down the oven. So what will happen now to this? Now you've put it under lock and key.
Now the next step is we issue court summons to them and take them to court.
And time now for the National Science and Maths Quiz. The academicians from Accra stand tall in Kumasi after an impressive 61-point win over Kwapiman and Fiasiman SHS in the ongoing 1/8 round of the National Science and Maths Quiz. Having missed out on the prestigious trophy in all 25 previous editions, the boys say this year is when they will break that barrenness and taste the NSMQ glory. They spoke to my colleague Manuel Cranton and also student himself.
There's full of no regret. Inhale a little my friendship to serve our nation grace. Oh Lord, to thee we dedicate our
A lot of confidence from the Accra Academy boys, and at the end of 5 competitive rounds, they say penny the penny. The boys have been separated from the men. Congratulations, Accra! No! Accra! No! Let me start off with you. Well, you look like you completed in the olden days. How does it feel to have come here to support? Oh, you're lecturing in Kenya?
Yes, I am. My name is Emmanuel Safo, and I'm a professor in the Department of Animal Science. So when I heard they were coming, I said, "Oh, these are my boys. Let me be here."
In fact, I've been watching Accra Academy over the years, and I think that one of the surprises that I had this time around is that during the true or false, Accra Academy was able to pick up all the points, and it was quite impressive. And I'm very much sure that with that determination, we will be able to go far.
Sure. The main reason why we were not performing was that at first we were not training earlier. After Wasi, then we just be picked. But science and math school is basically you have to train the boys well. So now that we've started the preparation well, expect Accra Academy to win coming years.
Okay, so today you can see that the boys are very good. You can see the speed at which they are answering the question. They are very confident, and they are going to go far. They are going to go to the finals, and we are very hopeful that they are going to the finals and win the trophy this time around.
If you could see our coordinator has put things in structure, like everything is fine, and we look forward to winning the trophy. Actually, this time around we are going to the finals.
You most probably will meet Prempeh College and then Opoku High School if you make it into the semis. Last year you were kicked out in the semis by Opoku High School. This year you're meeting them again, and not just them, another set of brothers from the Ashanti region, Prempeh College. That must be a harder start.
Yeah, the guys lost focus last year. This time around things are, well, as I said earlier, we are going to the finals, and trust me, those schools, we are going to massacre them. And as they say, Yankee Kaya home. Yeah, I just want to tell them. Okay. So this time around, we are coming. Okay. So they should watch out.
Well, let's see what happens. But Achimota School has failed an attempt to lift the NSMQ trophy for the 3rd time after they were floored by the Lions from the North, Tamale SHS. The Lions from the Northern region, who say they are on the path to win the trophy for the first time, made 56 points against 48 from Achimota School, whilst Kalipohene lagged with 14 points. The students have been interacting with Nanel Jima, who monitored the context from the Sarah Mensah Auditorium at the KNST.
An impressive run for Tamale Senior High School, beating 2-time champions of the National Science and Maths Quiz Achimota School by a point difference of 8. They led throughout the contest after taking a 3-point lead in the first round, expanding the lead to 10 in the 3rd round after they had a perfect score in the problem of the day. They led them through the contest. By the end of the whole contest, they were winning by 8 points against Achimota School and Kalipohene Senior High School. I have with me here the men who made things happen for Tamale Senior High School. Let me talk to them. Impressive run. Your first contest for this particular competition. How did you do it?
It's an easy task. We know we had nothing to worry about. Since Achimota, they are juniors, we haven't beaten them. It's not anything new, so we have to rest. Yesterday we slept. We know we had nothing to do today, so we slept. But they did well because they gave us some small tough time. But anyway, good job. They did well. You can tell they did well. Wow. Yeah, they tried.
You're the other guy, right? Yeah. Do you share the same sentiments?
Yeah, he's perfectly right. Achimota is not a school to worry about when Tamasco is to have a contest with, because it is known to everybody that Achimota is below Tamale Senior High School in terms of everything, quality, everything you can talk about education.
Now the Lions are going to the next stage of the competition.
And Lions are not, and the Lions do not fear anybody. Anyone who stands on the way of the
Lion. Yeah. I don't know. You're hungry for gold. Are the Lions going for gold?
Gold. You are talking about gold. Gold. The trophy, even diamond, we are going for it. Yeah, we are going for everything.
All right, let me talk to some of the teachers who came with them. Sir, you are leading the team, right?
Yes, sir.
So your boys are making a lot of noise. You share the same sentiment?
Oh, in fact, they are not making noise. We really mean what we are saying. We have put in a lot of hard work, and we expect something better, even in the next stage, where we think is even a higher level. You are going to see a better performance.
What should we expect from the Lions this year?
The trophy. We are taking it to Tamale, our home.
The Lion is carrying the trophy.
The Lion is
carrying the trophy to Tamale.
To experience the Hamilton.
Oh, yes. We'll dry it up.
Really?
And it will continue to shine.
The Lions are roaring. Let's see how far they go. The 2021 National Science and Maths Quiz is produced by Primetime Limited and sponsored by the Ghana Education Service in partnership with APSA Ghana. The broadcast of the quiz on Joy News is supported by Cowbell, our milk high protein and vitamins, Papa's Pizza, Tasted Love It, Ace Medical Insurance, the new face of health financing, Tampico, Simply Irresistible, DBS Industries Limited, which really are your roof experts, ULesson, Lab Learning, and Kings Group Limited set a standard. Also by Dole Yogurt, more, I need more. We have more news for you after the break. Stay with us.
Well, in business, government has justified the introduction of the tax on electronic transactions, insisting it's more efficient, a means of raising revenue without discoursing its cause. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has announced a 1.75% tax on all electronic transactions in the country. However, some have raised concerns about it affecting the use of digital platforms, especially in these times. But speaking to Joy Business, Deputy Minister of Finance Charles Oduboahin disagrees.
E-levy, everybody has a mobile phone, everybody has access to the internet or uses, one of these payment platforms. So you circumvent or you leapfrog that need for that kind of infrastructure that the Western countries have to be able to enforce your taxes, and use a digital platform which actually allows you to be able to do this without the need for putting in place any additional major infrastructure, because you can do it without actually having to set up more offices and so forth and so on. You just set up a digital platform which can be managed remotely, and before you realize, you're able to collect effectively. And it also is very transparent, so you know exactly how much you're collecting. The probability of leakages is very minor, and so it becomes a very efficient way to do it.
Well, no, but there are concerns that we want to encourage people going digital.
Yes.
Any form of levy or tax could be a disincentive. What do you say about that?
To be honest, we started looking at this 4 or 5 years ago, and that was the concern at the time. And we really appreciated it because it made a lot of sense then. At the time, if I remember rightly, 5 years ago, 2017, 2016, total value of transactions on electronic platforms was about under 75 billion cedis. Today, last year, the area ended at 500 billion. This year, projections are putting it at somewhere about 800-900 billion of transactions. That shows you that we've had 10%, 10 times growth in 5 years. That's phenomenal growth. If you look at also the number of mobile money subscribers, essentially, we are now at about 17 million mobile subscribers. In fact, the growth of mobile subscribers has got to the point where now you can see the penetration. That tells you that this is now a mature market. It's no longer a startup where it is an option. It's almost become a way of life. In fact, when you ask most people, they'll tell you that now they're more likely to send money on a digital platform than give somebody cash or write a check. Checks are almost dying, and so we feel certain that given the convenience that this provides, digital transactions provide to everybody, the payment of 1% or 1.75% on a transaction will not deter them from this, because it's still cheaper for them to send money to their carpenter or to their help or something, in another town than to take a taxi or take a car, pay for fuel, and go through that journey and the time spent. So the convenience factor that we have by being able to do digital transactions cannot be underestimated.
Charles Dubois in there. Away from that, Urban Capital has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Association of Small-Scale Industries on a digitization project for some 58 trade associations. We have more in this report.
Urban Capital, Enterprise Innovation Hub, and the Association of Small-Scale Industries will aid the SME sector to be regulated under one system. The project will see the development of database for micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises with operational enterprise resource planning and link them to mainstream financial services. The platform developed by Urban Capital shall provide end-to-end automation of SME activity, including business registration, e-commerce, access to banking and insurance services, professional services, among others. Here is Managing Director and Chief Executive James Sewonu Amega.
This is a group of 58 associations with a total membership of about 3 million that we're trying to digitize and also provide solutions that will enable them have access to financial ecosystems, being banking, being insurance, and also be able to trade efficiently. We set up to support African businesses wherever they are and also partner with institutions across various geographies. So we are a Ghanaian company, but we're thinking Pan-African and global as well. Yeah, they are positive about the future and what we're bringing to the table. They are quite excited about it, and we've done a lot of engagement in the past, community into this MOU. And we believe that by next year you'll see close to about 80% of them on a digital infrastructure that'll be doing business differently. And the reason being that we're building their capacity to think anew, and they are very responsive to that.
Also, President of the Association of Small-Scale Industries, Alhaji Saeed Mumin, explains the need for such a collaboration.
In fact, this particular MOU is something we have been yearning for quite some time when I took over office. That's in 2016. But I believe strongly that this is the time, because there's nothing you can do without formalizing your businesses. And that is making the informal sector very, very, very down. But with this MOU, I believe we are going to benefit so much.
Other partners from Old Mutual Funds and the United Bank of Africa indicated that the move is to support SMEs in their daily activities.
Realize that in as much as these SMEs are the engine of our economy, we have left with less attention. And it is very important that we empower these SMEs so that they can contribute much to Ghana's economy.
We've had a good interaction with the Urban Capital and then the Association of Small-Scale Industry, that is ASSI. Now, fact is that the digitizing platform that is set up right now is important and timely on our time, because the world has changed. The way we used to do work and documentation and stuff have all become digital. So we want to partner up with Urban Capital, ensuring that their customers that they have, the 58 associations that they have, we put them under a good registration platform.
The platform by Urban Capital is a pan-African platform to facilitate trade and enhance the operational capacity of MSMEs, associations and groups in general. The Association of Small-Scale Industries is the umbrella body of some 58 trade associations with active memberships of 3 million. James Ishan's report for Joy Business.
That'll be it for business. I will leave you with a summary of international business news to stay.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the second part of the sports segment with me, Rick Wampofo. When Edmond Ado looked for light, darkness came. But by dint of hard work, the Sheriff Tiraspol midfielder has finally realized his childhood dream of making his Black Stars debut. Joy Sports' Asari Vidiako runs by us the incredible story of the 21-year-old Polygon-born footballer.
Edmond Ado was like one of these young footballers who trained daily at the infamous Indafa Park in Mamprobi, a suburb of Accra. This pitch has produced many football stars for Ghana. Notable amongst them are former Black Stars captains Stephen Appiah and Asamoah Gyan. The playmaker who features for Moldovan club Sheriff Tiraspol had a big dream of becoming one of the best players in world football. But disaster struck when he was just 10 years old. Here is his guardian, Estatete.
My brother penny years suffer. In seeing Mammy Yari Kakra no be dim chin. And by ye no fika baby.
My older brother was a pastor. Edmond Ado's sick mother was brought here, but unfortunately she died. My brother decided to take care of him after his mom's funeral, and because I was a mother, my brother left the boy in my care. But my brother died few months after the death of Ado's mother, so I decided to take full responsibility. A child whose mother dies needs help. That is why I decided to cater for him. He was very serious with his football career. He would go and play football even before taking his meal. He was very passionate about the game.
Young Edmond Ado rejected countless football teams until mighty Cosmos FC came calling. Nana Sanko, who was his first football coach, shares fond memories of the 21-year-old whose role model is Barcelona legend Andreas Iniesta.
The time he entered into this pitch, I was seeing like a player. He didn't understand the football. Coming and displaying here, something like that. But I tend to see this person that he has a future. He has a future. So I started grooming him, taking him to the seaside. Within 3 to 4 years, then I told my executives that this person has a future. So we take care of him each and every day.
Nana Sanko is not surprised Edmond Ado is now playing in the world's most lucrative club football competition, the UEFA Champions League.
Okay, to come in, always after training, we normally tell them that, look, Stephen Appiah, my cousin. So we started calling that great player's name. As of now, we were with Edmond Ado. So each and every day, if you are coming to training, if you are just your training jersey, you just play on it, attached with your boot. It can help you for your future.
Hafiz Akono was Edmond Ado's teammate at mighty Cosmos FC.
He's a very talented player. Yeah, that's all I have to say about him.
What special quality does he have?
He's very skillful and very hard. He's intelligent. Yeah.
And how is his human relationship like?
He's very cool. He's friendly. He's friendly to all. He's not the type who underrates people. Yeah, so we all cool with him.
So, are you proud that he's now playing in the Champions League?
Of course, yes.
How happy are you that?
I'm always happy for him because.
So you watched the game? You watched it?
Yeah.
Which game did you watch?
Almost all. I watched all.
So you watched the game against Madrid?
Yeah.
You learned from him. What do you do?
We always learn from him because we started with him. He motivates us, and then he always tells us not to give up because yeah, we are always praying for him, and then we all get it.
The childhood dream of Edmond Ado was to don the jersey of four-time African champions, the Black Stars. And that dream came true on November 11 when Ghana locked horns with Ethiopia in the penultimate World Cup qualifier in Johannesburg, South Africa.
I feel good. I feel good, but a little bit I think about, oh, wow, is it real? But I feel good. I go inside, I try to do what I have to do to help the club. That's all.
Having realized his childhood dream of playing for the Black Stars, Edmond Ado is proud of his Kolegono roots.
I'm super excited about my city, how I can say is because Kolegono is home. I love them. I really appreciate what they did, all of them, my friends, those people who don't know me and who I don't know, but they still support me. I am glad that they all accept this and dream come true for everyone. And I thank God for everything too, because without God, we are nothing.
His guardian, Estatete, is confident the midfielder, nicknamed Ado Skillful, will rise to the pinnacle of world football.
God is faithful. He has promised to make Edmond Ado a great player. God will not disappoint him. The Almighty will take him to the pinnacle of world football.
Edmond Ado drew inspiration from the Thomas Robert Gaines quote, which reads,
"It is good to dream, but it is better to dream and work. Faith is mighty, but actions with faith is mightier. Desiring is helpful, but work and desire are invincible."
The boy from Kolegono did not only dream, but he also worked hard, and hard work inevitably produces results.
Well, that's how we wrap up the sports segment here. You can get some more sports stories on myjoyonline/sports or follow our social media at JoySportsGH. My name is Oreku Ampofo.
Package for tonight. Many thanks for your company. We have more stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com.